To some breaking news out of Bibb County. A fourth arrest has been made in connection to the ongoing child sex abuse investigation involving an underground bunker. ABC 3340's Gracie Johnson joins us now with more on the charges.
Muriel, the Bibb County District Attorney's Office confirms to me that Timothy St. John was taken into custody today. He's now facing a long list of charges, and officials say some of the alleged acts happened inside the same bunker that's been at the center of a months-long investigation. Now, this is ABC 3340's drone footage of that bunker. Now, according to the DA's office, St. John is charged with rape, sodomy, human trafficking, kidnapping, bestiality, and cruelty to animals. This comes after 3 men were previously arrested as part of the same investigation. All 3 of those men face multiple charges as well, including rape, sodomy, human trafficking, and kidnapping. Again, investigators allege that some of the offenses took place in the same underground bunker on Aaron Road in Brent, Alabama. Now, authorities have not yet said how St. John is allegedly connected to the other 3 suspects or whether additional victims have been identified. The investigation began in early February. Since then, authorities have made multiple arrests and filed several felony charges, yet key details surrounding the case are still unclear.
Keep the kids in safety.
The Bibb County Sheriff's Office says it opened an investigation on February 4th following a report related to child abuse involving an underground bunker near Brent. That investigation led to arrest of these 3 individuals. All 3 have been indicted on various felony charges, including rape, sodomy, human trafficking, and kidnapping. Court filings allege the incidents occurred between January 2024 and early 2025 and involved at least 5 children, all under the age of 12. The court documents indicate that William McElroy allegedly acknowledged having inappropriate conduct with a child. Dalton Terrell reportedly admitted to unlawful sexual activity during an interview with investigators. And Andres Trejos Velázquez is accused of distributing explicit images and facilitating contact between victims and others.
They need to be put away and stop all that violence going on with these little bit of kids. You'll never know what they might do to little kids these days.
While the charges are detailed in legal documents, many aspects of the case remain unknown. Some of the questions we'd like to ask investigators include, was anyone else involved? And how were the children identified or contacted? We reached out to the Bibb County Sheriff's Office in an effort to get an answer to those questions, yet we were told that Sheriff Jody Wade was out of the county and unavailable for interview. We will continue to ask questions.
3 of the 7 suspects charged in a disturbing child trafficking investigation out of Bibb County faced a judge for the first time today instead of a bond hearing. All 3 chose to stay behind bars. ABC 3340's Gracie Johnson was there and has the latest.
What was scheduled to be an Ananias Law bond hearing for 3 of the 7 suspects charged in connection to alleged child abuse and trafficking out of Bibb County ended quietly. Rebecca Brewer, Ricky Terrell, and Sarah Terrell all waived their right to bond during their first court appearance.
It's not the norm, but it does happen from time to time. This is probably the first non-murder Ananias hearing that resolved itself that fast.
Each of the 3 faces severe charges, including human trafficking, kidnapping, rape, sexual torture, and child sex abuse. Before entering the courthouse, Rebecca Brewer told media, "I didn't do this. I love my babies." Inside the courtroom, Ricky Terrell was overheard telling his attorney, "I've never touched a kid." He also asked an officer if he could hug his wife, which that request was denied. Despite the quiet courtroom behind the scenes, the investigation is very much still moving.
The public should rest assured that the majority of the perpetrators that have been identified are either in custody and charged or will be very soon.
So far, authorities have identified 10 child victims ranging from ages 3 to 15. Most are under the age of 10. Investigators say they were drugged, restrained, and taken into an underground storm bunker where strangers would pay to abuse them in what they described as appointments.
Whenever you have cases that involve children victims or child victims, it shocks people to the core.
The next court date for these 3 suspects is set for August 21st, a preliminary hearing. Until then, they remain in custody without bond.
When I tell you I feel like I've seen it all and heard it all, this is shocking even to me.
The investigation into an unthinkable child abuse case in Bibb County is far from over. 7 people are behind bars accused of horrific crimes against children as young as 3.
Authorities fear more victims are out there and more perpetrators too. ABC 3340's Gracie Johnson spoke with a trafficking expert. And Gracie, she is shedding light on just how deep this kind of abuse can run and why early recognition and recovery are so difficult.
Muriel, yes, I spoke with Carolyn Potter, CEO of the Well House, who works directly with trafficking survivors. She explains why this case follows a familiar and heartbreaking pattern and what's needed to help the children now coming forward.
The vileness, the evil of that just went to the very core of my soul.
What investigators say happened in rural Bibb County is almost impossible to comprehend. A storm shelter, originally built as a place of safety, became the scene of unimaginable alleged abuse. 10 children, some as young as 3 years old. So far, 7 people have been arrested.
I've been in law enforcement for 33 years, and this is absolutely the most horrible thing I've ever seen when it comes to victimization of children.
Carolyn Potter works with trafficking survivors from across the country through the Well House, a recovery center in Alabama. She says the signs of trafficking are often present, just not always recognized.
We need to do a better job of educating our teachers and our counselors and our caseworker on what trauma looks like and on the signs of human trafficking, because I would wager just about anything that those children showed signs.
Authorities say the children were participating in normal activities, including attending school. Yet the abuse had been taking place since around 2022.
I do not think that anybody that was not involved in this directly was aware that it was going on.
When I tell you I feel like I've seen it all and heard it all, this is shocking even to me that it went on this long without anyone knowing about it or being able to do anything.
Now, with the investigation still ongoing, the focus is also shifting to recovery. Potter says the children will need more than a rescue. They'll need long-term care.
They've already been in contact with counselors, and they're getting the help they need, the medical help they need, the emotional and psychological help that we can best provide them.
Yet, sadly, the 10 child victims identified in this case so far aren't the only ones.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot more that's going to come out, unfortunately.
There are more. There are more children across our state, across our country, who are enduring horrific crimes like these.
I spoke with Sheriff Wade this morning. He said they have not yet made any additional arrests in this case, but they are actively working on uncovering additional suspects.
The Centerville community came together praying for children, praying for families impacted after that recent child trafficking scandal.
This has been a really tough story to have to report on. We know that 10 children, some as young as just 3 years old, were sexually abused and trafficked in an underground bunker. Jocelyn Malev from our sister station in Tuscaloosa reports.
We shouldn't be known for this. We shouldn't be labeled for the evil that has happened in our communities. We should be known as a praying town. All we're doing today is asking people, to put their hands, wrap their arms around this community, wrap their arms around the victims and the victims' families, who are really the ones suffering.
For one longtime resident of Centerville, the tragedy feels deeply personal.
It's so emotional of what's happened in our town. We've always been a great town and safe, and nothing like this has ever happened before. So we're all devastated, and we just hope that justice is done to the full degree. We've got a lot of great law officers and a sheriff and everybody.
Organizers wanted to provide a space for the community to come together in response to the disturbing reports that have emerged this week involving child trafficking and abuse. The Centerville community held the vigil just days after the shocking discovery that at least 10 children, some as young as 3 years old, were victims of a coordinated sex trafficking operation in Brent.
That abuse took the place of bedtime stories. That abuse took the place of tucking kids in at night. That abuse took the place of, hey, let's go to the ballpark and have a fun day.
Despite the strain the situation has placed on the community, residents are choosing to focus on the positive as they look toward healing and moving forward.
We have not seen all the bad that's going to come from this, but we haven't seen all the good that can come. You know, we have to be strong. We have to keep our faith. We just pray that God will, have his say. He will.
And that was Jocelyn Malev reporting. Investigators have charged 7 people in this case. 3 suspects waived their right to bond, choosing to remain in custody. The suspects face allegations including human trafficking, kidnapping, rape, sexual torture, and child sex abuse. A former teacher now says she raised red flags about one of those children nearly a year before the case surfaced. ABC 3340's Gracie Johnson spoke with her today.
I just feel like it should have been looked into more.
A former Bibb County teacher asked us not to identify her, but says she recognized something wasn't right with a child believed to be one of 10 victims in a Bibb County sex abuse case. It was the 2023-24 school year, and she says one of her students stood out for all the wrong reasons.
She was in my class, and she was just very delayed developmentally, and there could be billions of reasons, but now with all this coming out, it's kind of like that's probably why.
The teacher says school staff reported the child's condition more than once to school administrators.
It was multiple times. No, it never really got better.
The teacher tells me that reports are typically made directly to the school counselor, who would then contact necessary external agencies. Investigators say at least 10 children were drugged and abused in an underground bunker. Our anonymous teacher says the reports she made to school administrators did not capture the full extent of what investigators have now allegedly uncovered.
Knowing now that they were drugged and stuff, so that had a lot to do with where she is academically.
Law enforcement says this major case wasn't referred to them by DHR until February 2025.
I was maybe not shocked, just even more saddened that nothing happened back then, was looked into far enough for it to be stopped back then, and it's just been ongoing.
I reached out to Alabama DHR regarding these claims, and they responded saying the Alabama Department of Human Resources is bound by state confidentiality laws and cannot comment. Gracie Johnson, ABC 3340 News.
We also reached out to Bibb County Schools. As of news time, we have not yet heard back from them.
I spent the day digging through court records to learn more about the 7 people now facing several disturbing charges. Shockingly, most of them have no serious criminal history in the state of Alabama prior to the child sex abuse investigation. Authorities in Bibb County say the details of this case are unlike anything they've ever seen. An alleged underground operation involving child sex abuse, human trafficking, and a hidden bunker. 10 children have been identified as victims so far, and 7 adults are behind bars.
Some of the victims, the offenders, were their parents and different relatives and things like that.
I spent the day digging through court and criminal records, trying to learn more about who these suspects are. Most of them had no serious criminal history in Alabama, most only facing minor traffic violations until now. Rebecca Brewer is charged with 8 counts of human trafficking and kidnapping and 3 counts of sexual torture, but I found no prior criminal record. William McElroy, Dalton Terrell, and Andres Trejo Velazquez are each charged with multiple counts of rape, sodomy, human trafficking, and kidnapping, also with no known serious prior state charges. Ricky Terrell is charged with rape and previously faced drug-related offenses and possession of contraband. Sarah Terrell now faces charges of sexual torture and 2 counts of sexual abuse of a child less than 12 years old. I found 1 previous charge for hindering prosecution. Timothy St. John had the longest rap sheet, including theft and criminal trespassing, criminal mischief, burglary, and other drug-related charges. All 7 suspects remain in custody at the Bibb County Jail, awaiting future court proceedings in connection to the Bibb County child sex abuse investigation. The defense team for one of the 7 suspects has filed a motion to restrict media coverage and public access to pre-trial court proceedings. The move aims to protect the defendant's right to a fair trial by limiting exposure to potentially prejudicial information. A judge has not yet ruled on the motion. The details coming out of Bibb County's child sex abuse investigation have left a deep impact on both the public and the people working to bring justice. Now lawmakers are pushing to bring the harshest punishment against those who harm children.
I believe that there is a special place in hell for child sex predators.
Inside the State House, leaders from across Alabama came together with a message. What happened in Bibb County cannot happen again.
I've seen a lot in 25 plus years as a prosecutor, the scope and the depth and the depravity of what has been described, and I think we're still going to learn more when we have an opportunity to be able to allow the facts to be tried. They are the worst that I've ever seen.
On Thursday, Representative Matt Simpson and Senator April Weaver announced their plan to reintroduce legislation that would allow prosecutors to pursue capital punishment for the rape or sodomy of children under 12. The effort follows the arrest of 7 people in Bibb County accused of being part of what investigators describe as a child sex trafficking ring conducted out of an underground bunker. Some victims as young as 3 years old.
When you somewhat top line it, the death penalty for pedophiles, I'm in.
But this proposed law would not apply to the suspects already in custody in Bibb County.
We're not able to retroactively apply this punishment to those. It has to be in effect at the time the offense was committed. I wish we could, but unfortunately we can't.
These lawmakers say they are already gaining support in their push for harsher penalty, and they're actually giving their colleagues more time to co-sponsor the bill before filing.
7 of the 8 people charged in a child sex abuse case involving an underground bunker entered not guilty pleas this afternoon. ABC 3340's Gracie Johnson was in court today, and she has the latest of what we're learning this hour.
The more we learn, the more chilling the details seem to be. And Friday's hearing painted a disturbing picture of what investigators believe happened to these children over the span of several years. Investigators also revealed that they have evidence that leads them to 15 to 20 still unidentified people who paid to enter the bunker. Bibb County investigator Justin Hobbs testified 2 of the child victims who were in DHR custody at the time first revealed what they called the secret bunker, saying they learned sexual behaviors there from suspect William Chase McElroy. Hobbs said multiple victims, some as young as 2 years old, described being touched, whipped with belts, and shocked with electric dog collars. One child said she was forced to perform sex acts while some of the suspects laughed, took pictures, and video. The 8 defendants face charges including rape, sodomy, human trafficking, kidnapping, and sexual torture. Assistant District Attorney Brian Jones says they are charged under Alabama's accomplice liability law, meaning prosecutors allege each suspect participated in or enabled the abuse, even if they didn't commit every act themselves.
Rarely do you have rapes and sodomies that fall under the complicity and the accomplice liability, but in this particular case, they were all involved in some degree to the abuse and to the rapes and sodomies and human trafficking and everything involved.
Hobbs testified some of the defendants admitted in interviews to drugging children with GHB, liquid ecstasy, and other substances. Those details came from the defendants themselves, not from toxicology testing. He also confirmed investigators have not recovered any of the alleged videos described by the victims. All 5 defendants in today's Aniah's Law hearing were denied bond. The 3 others remain in jail on no bond.
Surrounding DHR agencies have stepped in to help with the investigation. Investigators say the child victims have been removed from Bibb County out of an abundance of safety. The investigation is still active and more arrests are possible.
one.